Okay guys, so welcome to another exciting video from Pycoders Academy Python Focus with me, Faisal from Pycoders Academy. Okay, so in our previous video, we were looking at the first part of classes where we learned about the definition of classes, creating of objects, what are methods, attributes, and we did the self parameter, the init method, and the function overloading. Okay, so I hope you loved the previous video. If you loved it, just sit tight and watch this video. Okay, so today we will focus on the second part of classes, where this will be the ending part of classes. So we will end it with this video in classes. Then in the next section we will start with some projects covering our previous videos we have done. So it will cover for loops and classes and so on. Okay, so first we will look at these topics. So static methods, class methods, pass, del, inheritance, super, data hiding, magic methods, and some magic methods are what I've written here. Don't mind it now, just sit tight and watch this video. Okay, so we will start with the static methods and the class method. So class methods and static methods. Okay, okay, so as I said, we are starting with the static method and the class method. Okay, so these methods are just functions, or so they are functions inside the class. So as I said, methods are functions that are present in a specific class. So that's what we are saying. So we are starting with these two, then we move on to the next keyword. So static method will be our first topic. So static, as we know, like something that is not moving, something that's not in motion, or something that is like there, just there. So that's the explanation behind static. So that's what we will apply here. So let's say we have a class called, uh let's say acceleration. So something like acceleration here, acceleration. Now let me do movement. Then I'll just create a def here. So I'll say accelerate, accelerate, accelerate. Then I'll pass the self inside. Then I'll say something like print. Okay, accelerating. So accelerating. Okay, then okay, I'll pass another one also here, def stop or decelerating. Okay, then I'll say print decelerating. Okay, decelerating. Okay, so we have defined two methods in our class, which is called movement, and we want to explain the static method we are talking about. So let me just create an object here to call this state method. So let's say obj is equal to, then the class name will come movement. Then I will just do something like this, and I will say print obj dot, and I'll say accelerate first, then I'll bring the next one, which is decelerate. So print stop, object dot stop. Okay, so simple. So now I'm calling this method. So let me run this for you to appreciate what we did in our previous video. So let me run it again. Okay, so you can see I'm getting accelerating none. We are getting none because we are printing it. You are printing a string inside a method. When you use the print statement, we are getting this. So let me try and see return. Okay, then I'll use return also here, return. Then okay, so now let me run this code and see. Okay, so now the none is gone. So when you use the print, you get a none output. So we get the output plus none keyword. Then when you use the return, you just get the output. So that's the differentiation. So take note. So now we know how to create objects and call our method. So now let's move on to the static method. So if you want to make a static method means you are making a local variable, so like something like a local variable, something that can be recognized only in the class. So in creating a static method, you just do, we call it the created function, so we just do at then static method. So simple. So at static method, so simple. Now let's run our code again and see. Okay, so accelerate missing one required argument self. So let's say let me remove this self here. So let me run this code and see. Okay, so I'm getting accelerating, and but when the self was here, it didn't work. Why? Because it didn't become part of the movement. So it has become a static method. So even if I change the value, it's still static. So let me try something like this is the movement, and I will say print, then I will say accelerate. Now let me do something like movement dot accelerate, so something like this, and let's see. Okay, so let me pass a self here for you to appreciate what we are saying. Self. Okay, so self is not, so it's still not working because there is a self here, and which signifies that this static method is not part of our class, or it's not accessible out of the class. So it's only static, so it can't be accessed outside of the class. So it's something like a local variable, so it can't be accessed outside the class like we have accessed the stuff. So to the vice versa, or the opposite of the static method, is the class method. So the class method becomes a local, a global, something like a variable or global function, so it can be accessed outside the class as we did here. So let's try and change this to class method. Then I will just call this again and see if you get the same error. Okay, so you can see we are getting accelerating, decelerate. So that's the key difference with here. So when you use the static method, you are saying the method you have defined can't be accessed outside the class. Then when you use the class method, it means we are creating a method for the class, so it can be accessed outside the class. So that's so simple. That's what we are saying about class methods and static methods. Okay, so that's that for this video. That's that for this section. Sorry. Okay, so in our previous video, or in our previous section, we were looking at the static methods and the class method, and I said the class methods is just creating a method which can be accessed outside the class, and the static, as I said, cannot be accessed outside because it becomes a static property. Okay, so now so now we move to the pass keyword. So let's say I have a class and I don't want to create any methods inside the class. I just want to leave it empty. Then I will use a keyword called the pass. So as we did in the conditional statement, we use a pass to, let's say, pass or create an empty conditional statement. So to use the pass, we just write a keyword here. So I will just clear all these, then I'll just say pass. So simple. Now I'll just, let me say, create obj is go to now movement. Okay, now let's print obj and see what we are getting. So let me print it out. Okay, so main movement object at, so this is an object, is an object, so we are printing only an object. So you can see the class has been created, but there is nothing inside, so we can't access anything from inside. But when we created the object also was created. So we are saying that when you use the pass, you just creating an empty class. That's what we are saying. Okay, so now we move to the del keyword. So let's say I have, let me go back to my previous code. Okay, so let's say I have this, let me clear this class method out. Okay, so then I'll clear another one here. Okay, so let's say I have something like an object, and I've created an object, and I wanted to delete that object I've created. So how will I do it? I will do it by just using the del keyword. Okay, so the del keyword can be used by just doing del, then the object name will come. So the object name is obj. So now let's try and print obj, let's say dot stop. So let's run this code and see. Okay, so name obj is not defined. Why? Because we have already deleted that object. So when you use the del keyword, we are saying delete that object. Now when we call that object again, it is undefined because we haven't defined that object. So let me clear the del and see what we get. Okay, so we are getting decelerated. So the del keyword is for deleting objects. So simple. So the pass is to create an empty class, and the del keyword is to also let's say delete an object. So you can delete many objects. So let's say I have plenty objects, I just do del this, del that, and so on. Okay, so next we will move on to inheritance. So let's say you have a father, like let's say a father having 4 children, and if the father dies, the children get his property. So that process or that stage is what we call the inheritance. So you are inheriting, or you are getting your father's properties. So that's what we are saying. So when you inherit, we are saying we are getting the parent's property. So it applies here in Python, or here in OOP, which is the class or the object oriented programming. So when we think about the inheritance in classes, we are saying we are inheriting some properties from a parent class. So we will hear some keywords in inheritance, something like superclass and subclass, when we are learning classes. So superclass is just the parent class which everyone or every child inherits from. So something like the father. So let's say the father will be the one the children will inherit from. So then the subclass will be the children. So the one who inherits what the father has, or the properties the father has. Okay, so the superclass is the parent, and the subclass is the child. So simple. Now we can apply inheritance here. Okay, so let's say I've defined a class, something like this, and okay, so I've defined, so let me define a method here. So I've defined a method called acceleration, then self will come, then I'll say, let's say something like print accelerating again. So accelerating. Okay, now what I will do next is just create, okay, so something like this. Okay, so what I will do is create another class. So another class here, then I will say static. Okay, then I will say so when you are inheriting, you pass a parenthesis, like you bring a parenthesis after the name of the class name, then you pass the class name inside that parenthesis. So when you are inheriting, you pass the parent here. So I'll pass movement here, So movement, so that's the parent, or that's the super class we want to inherit from. Then I will just do my method here. So let's say I will just do a stop method here. Then I'll say print stop. Okay, stop. Okay, now let's say I want to create an object for the static. So I will create an object here. So static. Okay, so you can see there is only one method inside my static class, which is the stop method. But here is a case we are inheriting from the movement class. So when you are inheriting from the movement class, you get the properties of the super class. So the properties are the methods inside that class, so which is the acceleration method. So you can get the acceleration method from directly from the static object. So let's say this is my object, so which is the object of the class static. But since it is inheriting from the movement class, I can get the method inside the movement class by just doing obj dot, then I'll say acceleration. Okay, so now let's run this code and see. Okay, so you can see let me change this to return. Okay, so something like return here, return. Okay, okay, another one also here, return. Okay, so you can see, so now I'm saying that like I've created a new class, and that new class inherits the properties of the super class, which is the movement class, and that movement class contain a method which is called the acceleration method. And when you inherit all the properties. So let's say I have another one also here, so something like def of decelerating, then myself will come, then I will say return, then I will say decelerating. Okay, so yeah, now what I will do next is just print another uh print statement here. So just do, then I will say decelerating, then I'll print stop. Okay, so obj dot stop. Okay, so let's run this code. Okay, so you can see accelerating, decelerating, and stop. So when you inherit from a class, it gets or inherits all the properties, or all the methods, or all the variables, or all the properties inside the superclass, or inside the class it's inherited from. So that's all for inheritance. Okay, so next is the super function. So we are on inheritance, where we have done the super class and we have done the sub classes. So we move on to the super function. Okay, so the super function is used in inheritance when you want to use another class inside, let's say, a specific class. So let's say I have the static class here, which is inheriting from this parent class, and I want to use this parent class inside this class. How will I do it? I will just use the super function. Okay, so the super function is used in this way. So just type super, then your parenthesis, then okay, so this is the function. So this does it just replace the super then parenthesis with the, let's say, the okay, so this is the class, so this is the parent class, so it will replace this super function with the parent class here. So here should be acceleration. Okay, so when you use the super function, you can call all the method inside that class you are inheriting from. So it will replace the super here with the movement here. So what this does is just go to this static class, go inside the parenthesis, pick the super class, or pick the class it is inheriting from, then replace it here. Then after replacing, then it will call the method acceleration. Then I can call another one to super function, sorry, so super function. Okay, so super function dot deceleration. decelerating. Okay, now let's try and print stop only. So I'm printing stop only because the stop contains our super function. So let's try this. So object dot stop. So let's run this and see. Okay, so, okay, I have to return it. Sorry. So return and return. Okay, so what are they saying again? The code is unreachable. Okay, so I'm using two returns. Let me bring one on this line. So let's run this code and see. Okay, so you can see I'm getting accelerating and decelerating. Okay, this should be decelerating. Okay, so when you use the super function, you are saying that you want to use another class or the attribute of the class you are inheriting from, which is the super class, in your current class. So as I have here, I have the static class and I want to use the attributes from the movement class. So I just use the super function, then return the attribute or return the method. So that's the super function. So you use the super function, then dot acceleration, then super function dot decelerate. So that's the way to call the methods inside a different class. Okay, so that's that for the super function. Move on to data hiding and magic methods. Okay, so in our previous section, we looked at inheritance and we also learned about the super function method, which we said it can be used to call methods inside another class which we have inherited. So next we move to data hiding, which is also known as encapsulation, which I have here. So you may see data hiding or you may see encapsulation, so they are both the same. We are just hiding data. Okay, so hiding data is just somewhat in some way essential and not essential. So let's say I have methods inside my class and I don't want to make it confused, or I don't want to make it let's say entangle my code. I just create a specific private variables or private attributes so as to make it very or stick to one method. Okay, so that's the idea behind data hiding. So we are hiding it from other calling it from outside the class. So let's say I have a class and I've hide all those variables from outside, from calling it outside the class. Okay, so let's see how we can hide our data. So we have the loosely hidden ones and we have the strictly hidden ones. So the loosely hidden ones are just let's say they can be accessed outside the class since they are loosely hidden. So the loosely hidden are with one underscore. So let's see how we can just create one here. So we have the self.x is equal to x and self.y is equal to y. So that's the normal way of passing or declaring variables inside our init method. So but let's say we want to loosely hide it, we just bring an underscore here, one underscore and another one also here, then another one also here, then another one also here. Then the obj.y will be obj underscore y, like this. Now let's run this code and see what we are getting. Okay, so we are getting 3 since here. Let me see. Okay, so the y here is 3, so we are correct, and here is 3 and we are getting here which is 5. Okay, so it's working. So this is a loosely hidden let's say attribute, so it can be accessed because it is loosely hidden. So let's go to the strictly hidden. So in the strictly hidden, it is hidden from the class method, so it can be accessed outside. So let's see. So that one will entail 2 underscores, so double underscore, and when you are calling it in another method, you use double underscore, then another one also double underscore, something like this. Now when you are calling outside from the class, it won't work because it is strictly hidden. So let me try double underscore here and see. Okay, so you can see movement object, movement object has no attribute underscore underscore y, but in the previous one when it had only one underscore, it worked because it was loosely hidden. But when you bring double underscores, then it is strictly hidden, so it can't be called outside from the class, but it can be called inside that class. Since we have something like this here, so when you are calling it inside another method in the same class, you just do self dot underscore underscore, which is double. So you use the self method or self parameter, then you use underscores to underscore with the variable name. So simple. So as we have here, okay, so that's what we are saying about data hiding. So when you want to hide your let's say your class, or want to hide your attributes from another class, you just use the underscore underscore y. So that's which is the double underscores. So that's that for data hiding. So next is magic methods. So what are magic methods? So magic methods are just methods with two underscores, so double underscore. So the init method, as we know earlier, is just a magic method. So we call this magic method. I don't know why they put the name. So the name can be scary, but it's just a name. So here, the let's say the before the word with two underscore before and after is a magic underscore or magic method. So the init is a magic method here. We can have the sub here, which is the subtraction, which is also a magic method. You have the multiplication, which is the mul, then the true div, the floor div, the mod, the power, and or and so on. Okay, so we can apply this in overload, the function overloading, as we did earlier on. So let's say I want to add two numbers, then I just do underscore underscore add. So this is a magic method. Okay, now what I will do next is just add them. So when I add two numbers here, so let me try this here, print let's say 2 plus 3. Okay, yeah, let me run this code and see. Oh nah, okay, no, it should be, sorry, should be obj, sorry. So let me print obj dot add. Okay, let me run this code and see. Okay, so we are getting 5 here, so it has been overloaded. So when we pass this, normally when you pass the add, you should get, let's say, print, let's say 2 dot underscore underscore, then add underscore underscore. Okay, let me create a equals 2 here, then I'll pass a here. Okay, now I'll say pass, let me say 5. Okay, 5. Okay, now what I'll do is just print it out and see what we are getting. Okay, so we are getting 7 here. Why? Because 2 plus 5 is 7. So you can see 2 here plus the 5 here, we are getting 7. But in classes, when you are doing function overloading, you can see I have here 2 plus 3, which is 5. Though I haven't passed any parameter when calling it, so something like obj dot add, then yeah, so something like this. So you can see I'm getting 5 here. What if I add another one, something like order, so something like this, and I'll say plus order, so order. Okay, then I'll pass something like 5 here. So instead of us getting, let's say, a number plus a number, so let me see, so we are getting 10. So you can see we are getting 2 plus 3 plus 5. So 2 here, this 2 plus 3 plus 5. So we have overloaded that function for the addition. So that's what we are saying when we do function overloading. So these are all magic methods. So there's an example of what a magic method is. So this is the less than, which is LT, then less than or equal to, which is LE, then equal to, then not equal to, greater than, and greater than or equal to. So that's that for magic methods, and that's that for data hiding. So we will move on to some let's say boolean output in class method. So we want to get some boolean output, or we want to get some, let's say if it is an attribute, then print a boolean output here. So that's what we will do in the next section. Okay, so lastly, so in our previous section, we just finished with the data hiding and magic method. So last we will end with these methods to check attribute inside the class. So let's say I want to check an attribute in a specific object. So let's say I have an object which I'm calling, let's say obj, and I want to check the attribute inside it. So there are some four methods here. So we have has, attr, then we have the set attr, which is attribute, then we have del attr, then the last one is let me see, has set del, then okay, set, okay, then get attr. Okay, now what we will do next is just apply this in our code. So what we will do is just do print, then has attr, then the object name will come, so obj, then let's say I want to check if there is an attribute there, which is, let's say, age. So if it is not there, we should get an error here. Okay, so we are getting false, so which says the attribute is not inside the age attribute, or the age attribute is not inside the object obj. So it's so simple. Now you can just do x here, so underscore x. Okay, so I'm not sure you'll get this. Okay, so false because it's hidden. So let's try something like name, then here to name or age. Okay, then here should be name, don't mind the naming, then here should be age. Okay, so let's run this code and see. So here should be age. Okay, so you are getting through here. So when you want to check if an attribute is present inside an object of a class, you just use a has attribute to get it. Then when you want to get that attribute, you just do get attribute. So get attribute. Now we go to, sorry, I go to let's run it. Okay, so I'm getting 3. So here we have 3 here, so the 3 will be stored here, which is the age here. So the age is 3, so we are getting it. So you can get that for the name also. So name, we should get 2. Okay, so that's it. Then we move on to set attribute, so to change the value here. So let's say I want to set obj, then I'll pass another parameter here, which is, let's say, 4, to set that value. So let me pass it. Okay, so it should get none. So now what I will do next is just remove that print statement, since it's a command. Now I will just print get instead. So get attr, then the object name, then the attribute name, which is what we change to name. We change the name, so we should get 4. Okay, so you can see the updated number is there, so that's the 4. So you can use the set attribute to update your attribute. Okay, now we move on to the del attribute. So the del is used for deleting. So del attributes. Now what we'll do next is just print this attribute if it's inside. So print has attributes, then we'll say obj, then I will say comma name. So simple. Now let's see if it's true. So okay, it's false, so it's not present because it has been deleted. So that's how we can check attributes inside our classes. So it's so simple. I think that's that for checking those attributes. So that's that for part 2 of the class. So I think there are a whole lot of topics about OOPs in Python or classes in Python. You just sit down and find it, because there are a whole lot of things about classes. I can't uh, go through all with you, so we will just do the important ones as we have done here. And I think this helps you in your project you are looking at or you looking to create. Okay, so when you have any comments or any queries, you just send it in the comment section. Okay, so that's that for this video. Thank you for watching, and the next video will be on some series of projects. Okay, so it will be fire. Okay, so it will be covering the for loops and those, all what we have learned up to now. It will cover it, so just sit tight and expect those videos. Okay, so thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel and just like this video.